Hearts of Iron 4, developed by Paradox Development Studios and published by Paradox Interactive, is a grand strategy game allowing the player to control any nation during World War II. As of the making of this video, there are 7 expansions for the game since its initial release in 2016. With the release of so many expansions, not only did they focus on new national focus trees for countries, but also additional changes to the basic game mechanic. Some of these changes include the revamp to naval warfare, how supplies are handled for the military, and the introduction of the espionage mechanic. These, as well as other changes, alter gameplay dramatically compared to the initial release of the game, like a pizza recipe constantly getting altered to make a delicious pie. Since this pizza recipe has gone through so many changes compared to its initial release, my goal for this series is to have a playthrough as one of the focus countries for each of the expansions to see how they fare with the current updated game mechanics. This will be a vanilla, or in other words, plain cheese pizza, series, set with no modification to the gameplay, except for possible cosmetic changes. This possibly would help make the gameplay feel more appealing visually for the different playthroughs. Also, to make this interesting for myself, I will have to meet 4 pieces of criteria to consider a playthrough a win. First, if playing as a major power nation, I will have to rank in the first place on the scoreboard. If playing as a minor nation, then I will have to rank in the top 5 on the scoreboard. Second, survive until 1948. Third, have to complete an achievement from the achievement list. And last, I cannot join another faction, however I can create my own faction. I added the achievements into the criteria so that I feel like I received a trophy for winning, or at the very least receive a participation trophy if I lose, like a children's sports team if they lost most of their games. Now if I meet the winning condition, then I will receive a reward of my choosing related to the nation I played. However, if I lose, then I will have to create a lewd fanfic and find a consenting person to read it along with me. With this stated, I have to make a quick disclaimer. Even though I am playing as these leaders, that does not mean I like or support them, their ideologies, or anything like that. I just think this will be fun and interesting, as well as make me feel more justified in owning all these expansions. Since I need to play the game on Iron Man mode to receive achievements, I will also be streaming the playthrough in case a recording issue occurs. I am also not opposed to getting help from people in the playthrough. To give you a bit of an understanding of how good I am at playing HOI4, I only played beyond 1948 in the game once. I stopped halfway on other playthroughs because I either had assignments for school or because I quit out of frustration from losing. As I mentioned, each of the expansions had a set number of nations that were the focus of each release. At the same time, a good number of countries were left barely touched. One such nation is Italy, one of the major powers in the game. The Italian nation has remained the same since the release of the base game and has received little love from the developers, like the parents' least favorite child. Such a lack of attentiveness allows me to take advantage and do this challenge. That said, can I take the Italian nation to victory, or will I fail like Mussolini in the attempt to reunify the Roman Empire, becoming the living expectations of the least favorite child? To get a better understanding, let's take a brief look at Italy before the 1936 start. Let us start with the formation of the nation. Unification of Italy occurred in 1861 when Sardinia and Piedmont's northern-controlled region and the southern region controlled by the revolutionary Giuseppe Maria Garibaldi connected the two separated regions and fused them to become the constitutional monarchy Kingdom of Italy. The new government mixed well, like how blue mixes with yellow to give you blello. Even though the country appeared green from the mixing, the Piedmontese, the blue as well as the northern region, were in control due to having a majority in the high government positions. This allowed policies to be implemented which the southern regions were not able to adapt economically, which led to the high organized crimes and corruption. The lack of large deposits of raw materials, high immigration, and illiterate population brought a period of economic stagnation which the eastern and southern parts suffered the hardest. This was due to its agrarian economy, unlike its northern region counterpart which was more industrialized. Colonization also began around this time, with the Eritrea area being solely annexed from 1868 to 1888 and a protectorate established over Somaliland in 1889. Ethiopia was able to fight off the Italians with the aid of Russian and French supplies, which left an Ethiopian-sized stain of embarrassment for Italy. In 1911, the Italo-Turkish War saw the dominance of the Mediterranean by the new Italian naval dreadnoughts, as well as saw the first use of airplanes in reconnaissance and bombing raids. This war ended in 1912, which resulted in Italy gaining Libya and the Dodecanese Islands. 1915 is when Italy joined World War I on the Allied side, hoping to gain land from the Austrians. However, there was hardly any progress on the Italian front. The navy spent a majority of its effort in the Adriatic Sea fighting the Austro-Hungarian navy by passively watching each other from a distance. At the end of the war, Italy did not gain as much as it was initially promised. This was mainly because the other allied nations felt it lacked in performance, so they only got a little bit of what they were promised. This war not only left Italy poorer and weaker, but angry at the lack of gains from its involvement. After the war, the people were disappointed by how the government was doing things. Momentum began to grow for the National Fascist Party, which was led by Benito Mussolini, to the point that the government control was eventually handed over to the Fascist Party. After the March on Rome, Mussolini was declared the Duce of Italy. Quick tangent. Now I suck at reading and pronouncing words, so I had to cut a lot out once I learned that Duce is not pronounced deuce, but Duce, for Latin reasons. I learned this once I came upon the spelling of deuce is with an E before the U. Don't I feel like one after learning this? Duce. Back to the brief Italian history. Mussolini was able to tighten his grip on the government by getting a hold on the economic troubles the country was in by balancing out the budget. This eventually allowed him to consolidate his power to form his dictatorship. Also, because of his moves on the economy, the Italian people only felt partial effects from the 1929 depression. The fascist corporatist and autarkic model of economy allowed Mussolini to make moves of making Italy a great power. In order to make the country look good, they would need to clean a very big stain. Thus, the invasion of Ethiopia in the late 1935. This would explain why Italy starts off the game at war with them. At this time period, an Italian army division template would comprise of 3 regiments of infantry. This was before undergoing the binary division layout, which was made of 2 regiments of infantry. This binary layout consisted of 6 infantry battalions, 2 artillery lines, and support engineers and anti-tank companies during World War II, as shown by the military history visualized site. So I can only guess that the original 3 regiment layout consisted of the same as the binary division template, but with just another infantry regiment with 3 infantry battalions. Again, it's an assumption. The Italian Air Force became an independent branch of the military in 1923. It had an impressive propaganda campaign with pilots breaking records and winning world championships. If the Air Force was in better condition at the beginning of the Second World War, then Italy perhaps would have performed better. But then again, they thought the future of the Air Force was to biplane since they performed well in the Spanish Civil War. The Italian Navy underwent, quote, modernization after the First World War by having new ships constructed. I say modernized in quotes because they didn't care much for adding advanced tech such as radio rangefinders or gunnery control devices. Instead, they favored more of the bigger, thicker guns on their ships. This led to their well-supplied navy to not have much of a chance compared to other ships that were more advanced in tech. I figured I'd do a quick overview of Italy to help be prepared to understand the events that led to the country's development of its military and economic status at the start of the game. Although very brief, I think it's nice to learn some of the history of the country. Like I didn't know about how amazing the Italian pilots were until coming across the records they broke during that time. Learning about the history of Italy also gives me ideas for the potential fanfic I may have to write. With this, I conclude and hope that you stick around for the journey. IonizedBoop out.